So spoiler warnings, this is kind of an off-the-cuff video. I don't really have a plan for it. I didn't even type out a script. Mainly, I just kind of want to get some thoughts down while this movie's still kind of in the public conscience. And not gonna lie, it's just one of those things where I didn't really feel any kind of motivation to put extreme effort into it. So Prey is the new Predator movie that just came out recently. It's basically the other reboot beyond the 2018 one, which we don't talk about the 2018 one. That one was fucking bad. Well, Predator's been going on for a long ass time. You had the original movie back in like 1987, I believe, with Arnold Schwarzenegger famously and his whole group of buddies basically just shooting guns in the woods while being hunted by an alien. Ever since, they've been trying to kind of keep the franchise going with whatever they can. You've had tons of sequels, you have God knows how many comic books. The most famous thing in pretty much the entire franchise beyond the original movie is the crossover with Alien. So you have the AVP series, Alien vs. Predator, which in itself has video games, movies, comic books, whole bunch of stuff. Well, Prey was the new reboot to try to kind of kickstart the franchise back into relevancy, because when Shane Black got a hold of Predator, it didn't end well at all, which sucks because Shane Black was in the original movie. He was actually the first team member to get killed off by the Predator.
The other day, I was going down to my girlfriend. I said to her, "Jeez, you got a big pussy. Jeez, you got a big pussy." She said, "Why did you say that twice?" And I said I didn't. See, it's because of the echo. Where the...
So it sucks he wasn't able to actually carry it to the finish line like how everyone wanted. Well, this go around, they got Dan Trachtenberg, I don't really know if that's how you say his name or not, the guy who directed 10 Cloverfield Lane. He was in charge of this reboot of Predator. And to kind of get my thoughts out there quick and easy, I thought it was pretty okay. It wasn't perfect. In fact, I have kind of a lot of issues with Prey, but this video isn't necessarily about that. I mean, I will talk about what I thought about the movie and the issues I had, but I'm not really here to review it. It's just one of those where, if I'm going to be honest, Prey, I liked it when I watched it, but immediately after, I was kind of dismantling it in my head. It's not completely horrible or one of those you wake up and realize you watched something terrible. It's more the fact that it really doesn't have staying power. The only things that I really liked about the movie were the actual characterization of the Predator, it being more of a berserker warrior that wanted to physically fight its prey instead of hunt it. Because if you watch the original movie, that Predator's basically up in a tree taking pot shots at people. It was basically a redneck trying to hunt deer. Well, this go around, this Predator is a lot more aggressive and physically violent. It wants to get up close and personal and physically beat the shit out of whatever it's hunting. And I thought that was cool. One of my favorite things about the extended lore with the Predator is exploring how each one is its own individual. They all have their own different styles and histories and personalities. I actually want the series to start drifting more into that, with establishing Predators as individuals instead of just a Predator. But Prey has no interest in that. It's another Predator with just a slightly different gimmick than the other ones. Still, the thing with Prey that I kind of was interested in the most was kind of people's reaction towards it, because for those unaware, the actual marketing of Prey focused really hard on how the story revolved around a Comanche tribe back in the 1700s. And it went through basically the usual motions you would expect from that. A lot of representation, a lot of, well, this is important history that has to be covered, and especially talking about how great it is to have a female Native American woman as the protagonist. Really ancillary stupid stuff that I personally feel kind of poisoned the well for this movie, because as stated, I don't think it was bad. It's just kind of also not very memorable. It's not horrible, but it getting 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, not anywhere close, at least personally. It's just not really anything that tries to reinvent the wheel or do anything interesting. It's basically watching the first movie again. Hell, say what you want about Predators, the one with Adrian Brody. At least they have more than one Predator. But I kind of feel like this is a flash in the pan. Really, it's going to be talked about for a little while, then quickly forgotten, because at the end of the day, it's a serviceable sequel. It's not horrible, but it's just kind of there. I put it about the same level as Predators, but I do admit Predators has a lot of charm to it with the whole alien planet and essentially battle royale thing where a bunch of people were kidnapped and brought there for hunting. I thought it was cool. But my main issue with Prey is the fact that you have a lot of, I guess to be perfectly honest here, shit flinging by every single side in order to turn this into something a lot bigger than it really is. You have one side that talks about how it's actually a great and inspirational film that's gonna uplift women and minorities and equality across the entire fucking planet will reign forever, you know, shit like that. And on the other, you have people that are just absolutely downright convinced that this is just some garbage piece of shit movie that exists to spread woke propaganda. Now, I personally think it's neither. It's just sort of a serviceable reboot to a sci-fi franchise. I mean, end of the day, that's what it is. Now, I know a lot of people complain about the entire idea of the protagonist being a tiny little Native American woman fighting off this big-ass predator. The thing I'll say about that is that's actually the point of the movie. It addresses more than once that she's physically incapable of fighting that thing alone. She has to get clever, and that's kind of the dynamic she has with the predator. It's a cat and mouse. It's a big-ass brute warrior that's gonna fuck shit up in a fight, so she has to be smart. She has to trick it. It's basically the exact same thing Arnold did in the original movie. And really, it's kind of been a trope that's been going on for God knows how long. You have the frail and vulnerable girl that's being hunted by something far stronger than her, and she has to outsmart it. I mean, it's been a thing since Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's just, that's a thing in slasher movies. So complaining about that is kind of missing the forest for the trees, at least how I view it. Really, assigning any sort of political affiliation to this movie is giving it a lot more credit than it really deserves. At the end of the day, it's too scared to really do anything. I mean, it brings up the whole idea of the girl wanting to be a hunter and violate the gender norms of her tribe, but you're never given a really convincing reason why. The only reason she wants to be a hunter is because people tell her she can't be one, which to me is really stupid. Now, I didn't think the protagonist was awful. I mean, when she's alone by herself in the woods with her dog and just kind of skulking the world around her, I thought that was interesting. When she's alone, the movie is a lot better. When she has to interact with other characters, that's when you start feeling like, frankly, they had no idea what the fuck to do with her. The absolute worst part of the movie are the characters, because frankly, they're really, really dry. They make such an emphasis about the bond between the protagonist and her brother, but frankly, I never bought it. It just never felt like they really connected. The dialogue feels very stiff and isn't really charming in any way. Say what you want about the other movies, but they're able to actually weave humor in with very tense action. Prey, frankly, never had a moment like that. It's actually kind of a miserable, dry movie. There's no point where they ever crack a joke or do anything to alleviate the tension. Now, that's not saying it needs to be a Marvel movie. For the love of God, don't do that. It's just one of those things where instead of trying to have a personality and differentiate itself from the rest of the series, it relies a little too much on Old West Predator. It's not even Old West, it's 1700s Predator, which honestly sounds like that could be really, really cool, but once again, it's nothing that's really fleshed out or given enough attention. For a movie that's almost 2 hours long, it doesn't really say anything. To its credit, it is very fast. I mean, as soon as that first half is done, boom, you're right in the thick of it. But the action scenes are what's carrying the majority of the weight here. I mean, it's good action. I had fun with it, even if all the blood is CG and it's very obvious that they're not using practical effects. I can let go of that stuff. The problem is, in retrospect, it all felt like it was going by the numbers. I liked the final confrontation between the predator and the main character well enough. I thought it was decently tense, and they both do some serious damage to each other. It just sort of comes down to, at the end of the day, without the argument around the movie itself, the movie doesn't have anything. Now, when I say it has nothing to say, I don't mean it needs to have a message. For the love of God, don't do that. It's more the fact that it's not really much of anything. I mean, the characters aren't that charming. The action's fun, but there's nothing really to keep you engaged. And on top of that, if it's not even willing to do the social commentary, then all the attempts in the movie that seem like they're going to do that feel like wasted time. Like, if they wanted to do a thing where the girl wants to violate the norms of her tribe to become a hunter, why not give a reason why? Like, okay, here I'm just gonna pitch out an idea for the sake of it, just to add something to it. Instead of the girl simply wanting to be a hunter because everyone told her she can't be, why not make her very, very protective of her brother? Their parents died when they were young, and he is all she has left. So she wants to become a hunter in order to join him on hunting parties to make sure he comes back okay. And funny enough, this seems like what the movie wants to go with. Then it goes out of its way to be like, well, no, it's just because they tell her she can't be. You know, fuck gender norms. Which feels very artificial and not as compelling. Like, I get it, okay, sexism bad, all that. But at the end of the day, you have to weave that into the movie. It can't just be by itself there. Especially when the lesson is so basic bitch like that. You really miss out on a chance to both flesh out her character and get your message across if you don't do anything with it. By contrast, look at something like Aliens. The reason Ellen Ripley is such a badass is because even though she's pants shit terrified the entire movie, because she cares so much about the people around her, she's willing to throw herself into danger to protect them. She doesn't demand to go on the mission because I'm the only capable one here. In fact, she doesn't want to go, period. She's talked into it with the promise of money and the chance at closure. Then by the end, she's become so protective of Newt that she will go out of her way to save her, even if it means jumping straight into an alien hive.
Get away from her, you bitch!
The motivation behind Ripley wasn't to prove that she could do it, it was to save people around her, something she couldn't do in the first movie, on top of losing her daughter while she was in stasis. Ripley works way better as a girl power character because, frankly, her motivations are extremely relatable, and any sort of sexism angle is treated as well, childish, because why would you not think of it that way? There are bigger priorities than trying to show anyone up. This is something I feel Prey really missed out on, and really it's something that could have been remedied by a few scenes. In fact, I have the sneaking suspicion it might be hidden in the director's cut. Now, I understand her motivations towards the end, when it becomes about, spoilers, avenging her brother. That makes perfect sense. The issue is that, once again, you never really feel the bond between the two of them. They're just sort of there. So while it makes logical sense, it's just not very compelling from a story angle. If they showed more of her connection to the tribe, maybe even play with the idea that she's hesitantly becoming a hunter, it's not something she really wanted to do but feels like she has to in order to protect people around her, I feel like she would come across a lot better. At the moment, the most people say about her is, man, at least it's not as bad as I thought it was gonna be. Which, that's not exactly great. In any attempt at using outrage marketing and getting into internet fights to protect the movie, frankly to me, it's exhausting. In fact, it's not even exhausting. To me, it's just kind of at this point pathetic. Like, is it really that big of a deal that people don't like Prey? Is it really something that's gonna change the history of the world if a movie just isn't remembered that well? Of course it isn't, because this will quickly get replaced by God knows what other corporate products on the horizon. But right now, you have people that genuinely want to turn this into a part of their identity, like what they did with Black Panther. And frankly, that says a hell of a lot about you. Of course, I do have to levy some pain on the other direction as well, because frankly, it's getting to the point now where I do feel as if a lot of anti-woke channels, not to shit on anyone in particular, even really shit on them in a way that feels malicious, they end up shooting themselves in the foot lately a hell of a lot more than they used to, because in the old days it was, man, this Star Wars thing looks like it sucks, and that'd be met with, well, you only don't like it because XYZ, istophobe, what have you, which is obviously a completely hyperbolic exaggeration done for the sake of just shaming people and getting them to shut up. But lately, I do feel as if people are jumping at shadows too much, because while Prey did look like it was aiming to do some girl power woke stuff, in the end, it just seemed to kind of get cold feet and run away. But the thing is, they still want to act as if it's doing girl power woke stuff, and I understand why you would think that going in, but at the end of the day, the movie just is not doing that. And a lot of the elements they kind of pull out for examples, yeah, they're not really the best. I already described how the whole idea of tiny woman fighting predator is bad is kind of a stupid argument, because it's something that's been a part of media for God knows how long. It's basically the entire backbone to the slasher genre. So getting angry at it now, it's just kind of ridiculous. Especially if you claim that she's like fighting the predator hand to hand by herself. No, the movie goes out of its way to show that she's not on a physical level with this thing. She had to be smart. And even some of the ways they've argued about the intelligence kind of feels disingenuous. Like, oh, she managed to figure out predator technology that quickly. It's like, not really that blatant. It's more of she saw the red light go on a thing and then that thing died. So she found a way to weaponize that against the predator. I mean, it's stuff like that where if you pay attention in the logic of the movie, it makes sense. I do legitimately feel a lot of this is almost some form of like, I don't know if this is the right term, but PTSD from other franchises. Stuff like Star Wars or like Last of Us, where there was such a heated shit show over those new entries. For good reason, because they were just bad. But now everyone's looking for that next one as if they're more addicted to being angry than trying to give something a chance. And I do feel like that's going to be something that bites people in the ass in the end. Hell, you already see it now where a lot of people that claim to be neutral are coming out and saying, man, anti-woke people are so much more obnoxious than woke people, which is a complete lie. But they're going to say it anyway. Last I checked, anti-woke people aren't trying to change my fucking manga translations, you fucking cunts. Yeah, don't think this is a heel turn. I fucking hate woke people from the bottom of my fucking heart. They are ruining culture in a way that cannot be described. The entire reason people have this PTSD about it is because they kept insisting on this shit. Now, obviously, there are examples where you have to look at it from a much clearer head. Them shoving in black characters and trying to make Kratos gay in God of War Ragnarok is blatantly woke shit for the sake of it. Just to say, haha, we have this now. You have to take it case by case. One, because if you just keep screaming at everything, you're gonna look like a fucking lunatic and push people away. And two, it's just such a miserable way to view things. I already think the whole obsession with politics and making everything some part of a social cause is already a, frankly, very miserable way to look at the world. You have no enjoyment, everything's part of some big war. But being on the opposite side of that, but still thinking the same thing, yeah, that's not great. Like, you can't just praise something because it's anti-woke. There has to be something underneath it as well. I don't look at a story like Berserk and love it because it's not woke. I love it because it's about so many other things. In fact, it's about as far from modern culture as you can possibly get. Escapism. That used to be a word we respected. And once again, I don't want to shit on anyone in particular for kicking up the dust storm. I do feel like they had more than enough proof to do it in the first place. I mean, when they're going out of their way to talk about representation in a fucking Predator movie, a series that's had multiple ethnicities since it fucking began, plus the whole idea of corporate representation being so fucking condescending in the first place. I mean, yeah, why would you not make fun of that? That's stupid. But be careful about losing your fucking mind and just being angry for the sake of it, because frankly, that's not fun. It's not fun, and you kind of look like a fucking idiot doing it. Still, I've just been rambling for the past few minutes, so fuck it. I fully believe this movie will be forgotten about. Right now, it's just sort of a matter of everyone kind of getting their thoughts out and waiting for it all to blow over. But, it is what it is. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys.
I implore you to reconsider.
Understand the concept of love. Understand the concept of love. Understand the concept of love.
What is love? What is free love? What is love? Love is free.
Understand the concept of love. Understand the concept of love. Understand the concept of love.
Free love was too tame for him.
Love